Martin Luther King Day in the United States, holiday, third Monday in January, honoring the achievements of Martin Luther King, a Baptist minister who advocated the use of nonviolent means to end racial segregation. He first came to national prominence during a bus boycott by African Americans in Montgomery, Alabama, in 1955. He founded the Southern Christian Leadership Conference in 1957 and led the 1963 March on Washington. The most influential of African American civil rights leaders during the 1960s, he was instrumental in the passage of the Civil Rights Act of 1964, which outlawed discrimination in public accommodations, facilities, and employment, and the Voting Rights Act of 1965. King was awarded the Nobel Prize for Peace in 1964. He was assassinated on April 4, 1968. Almost immediately after King's death, there were calls for a national holiday in his honor. Beginning in 1970, a number of states and cities made his birthday, January 15, a holiday. Although legislation for a federal holiday was introduced in Congress as early as 1968, there was sufficient opposition, on racial and political grounds, to block its passage. In 1983, legislation making the third Monday in January a federal holiday finally was passed, and the first observance nationwide was in 1986. The day is usually celebrated with marches and parades and with speeches by civil rights and political leaders. Minister and social activist Martin Luther King was the preeminent leader of the American civil rights movement from the mid-1950s until his assassination in 1968. His guidance was fundamental to the movement's success in ending the legal segregation of Black Americans in the South and other parts of the United States. He rose to national prominence as a leader of the Montgomery bus boycott in 1955–56 and later as the head of the Southern Christian Leadership Conference, which pursued civil rights through nonviolent tactics, such as the Selma March, 1965, and the Massive March on Washington, 1963, at the culmination of which, King, an immensely gifted orator, delivered his iconic "I Have a Dream" speech. He was awarded the Nobel Peace Prize in 1964 and is commemorated by the Martin Luther King National Memorial in Washington, D.C. Learn more about Dr. King's extraordinary accomplishments through our timeline of his life.